You ready? I think we're ready. You guys good to go? Might as well. Absolutely. All right. You guys ready? Good to go? Last one, then ready for the fun run, walk, and with your drone. You can actually drop. You can drop your drone first.
That sounds wonderful. Are you recording that?
You betcha. All right, and here we are. Together we are better. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
All right. My name is Cindy Etherton. I'm from Salem Kaiser.
What's your job?
My job is I'm an innovative learning strategist. So my job is to support technology integration into the classroom.
She went as far away as humanly possible with a
Well,
little
I
dongle
did.
before she talked.
You're a mover.
And they can't hear anything because the plastic is still on top of the microphone piece.
Yeah, we can't hear, so that's why
So I'm gonna go.
forward, because I can't.
Go ahead and take that off. Okay. Because the speaker thing. Anyway, I'm Matt Head. I'm an innovative learning strategist in Salem Kaiser. I work with Cindy, and I used to work with her and a little bit with her,
Where I hired you.
and fired me almost every day.
A lot. Hi, I'm Corinne Richards. I'm with Forest Grove School District as the technology director.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lamb. I'm an education technology specialist with Portland Public Schools.
I'm Nicole Carter. I'm an innovation strategist with Beaverton School District.
Fantastic. So, you want to
I'm gonna go ahead and kick this off a little bit.
collaborate?
So first, Google has released a new tool that is fantastic. So if you have questions at any time, you can go to this link up here, goo.gl/slides MR7A, and you can ask your questions on your device. And then you can thumbs up your friends' questions if they think it's a really good question, and then we can answer them in whatever, real time. It's really pretty sweet. So if you play with it, you'll be able to see it.
We just discovered it yesterday.
It just came out over the Twitters yesterday, and I installed it. It turns out that apparently I'm on rapid release, whatever that means.
But Jeremy's not.
But Jeremy's not. So the collaborative doc, because together we work better, the collaborative doc is just a Google Doc, and there's a couple questions on there, and you can use your device, you can use your computer, you can use whatever you want to use. And the first question is, what's one thing that you took away from the session you just left? And if you took a nap, that's awesome. Doesn't have to be, anything fantastic. But the collaborative doc is handy, and then the slide deck, if you want the links and the pictures that have not yet been attributed in the slide deck, you can go to that link there, and you will actually want that link because I promise you a fun time near the end of this session that there's a link in the slide deck for. Okay. The rest of it's going to be awesome too.
So you might, don't switch the slide
Okay, I'm not
yet.
going to switch the slides yet.
You might, yes, take a picture of that or jot it down somewhere, because the ask a question link will stay at the top, but these links clearly are going to be
Go
on.
away.
So we'll give you a second.
Where the microphone is.
You're feeling far away.
It felt like we were all clustered, so
That's fine.
And so the main focus of this is that together we're better, and Salem Kaiser, Forest Grove, Salem Kaiser, Portland Public, Beaverton. We had some Google Hangouts planned with Newburgh and Beaverton as well, but we couldn't do what we do really by ourselves in isolation. And so that's where this is coming from. And now I think she's going to hit the forward button.
So now if you don't have it, you're going to get it from a neighbor. So one more camera up. Okay. So we've introduced ourselves already. Fancy
Now you
pictures
have our
and
Twitter
Twitter
handles.
handles are down below.
So you can find us on Twitter.
And once you have access to that slide deck, you'll have those handles all the time. All right, so we're going to kind of go through this thematically. We're going to talk about what we benefit, how we benefit from the connections and at the conference and around the state. We're also talk about tools that we use and some methods that we how that's evolved, because I think when we set it up, it's changed over time.
Yeah.
So the donuts. We get a variety of opinions, a variety of ideas, a variety of thoughts. The same with the brains coming together. I saw somebody else have brains coming together. I thought they took my picture, but it was a different one, so I feel better about that. And clearly we have no fun at all when we work together. Wow. Solemn group. And then teamwork.
You know, and as Matt was talking about the variety piece, we on purpose are a varied group so that we aren't just talking to ourselves and having those opinions validated. It is, what do you really think? What is your honest opinion? And then vetting our ideas across a wide spectrum.
So we set up that variety pretty purposefully. We seek affirmation from each other at the same time that you want people in that network that push you, and not really, in constructive ways. So what if you did it this way, or is that really the best tool, or here's what we're using? Those kinds of things are really helpful because we can't know everything about everything. So making sure you have that varied network is really important.
So our time together really is just to share our experiences as well as share what we've been learning in that process, but also share some of that learned perspective and then how we connect specifically and intentionally.
What's Freud? This is Freud. Fold. I'm not reading it very well.
And we're also learning how to read as a group.
So what kind of spurned the whole thing was I moved to Beaverton in their central office, and Melissa also was in the central office at Portland Public. And then we have a colleague, Melissa Garner, who has been absent for a little bit. She's coming off of some pretty serious illness, but she was in Salem Kaiser at the time. And when I moved to Beaverton, big districts were not a mystery, but the issues were just magnified. So I needed help. So we started meeting, and really, we used Google Hangouts, I think, mostly as the 3 largest districts in the state, and looking at ed tech. And it's evolved, because now we have lots of different perspectives, and I've switched districts since then to the one that's much smaller. And initially, we started with those Google Hangouts once a month is kind of what we planned. We looked at, what are big issues? What's kind of percolating at the top right now? And then we took the content from those, we actually recorded those and put them out kind of as a podcast. And then we would take one kind of summary topic, or summarize the topic and put it into a blog post. And that was a little bit for posterity for us. I needed to be able to go back to those recorded Google Hangouts because sometimes I forgot what someone had said specifically or if there was a tool. And the blog post helped us just with that processing part of it. So that's how we kind of started this, and like I said, it's evolved over time. So the benefits have been tremendous. The documentation part of what we talk about is huge. We revisit topics sometimes, we go back to those notes, and so it's been really beneficial just for me as a district level change maker, and then to get those different perspectives, but have that kind of archive of what we've done and what we've talked about, and when we need to revisit it, we do. So these are really just some of the tools we use, right?
Yeah. So we use these on a consistent basis. Slack is a huge one for our group, and there's an Oregon ed tech kind of group. Twitter, of course, that's where I met a lot of these people initially, was on Twitter. Skype Salem Kaiser uses that because we're sort of a Microsoft district, and so we use Skype. Google Docs, that's that icon there, which is just it's a document. It's like Microsoft Word, if you didn't know. It's just a document. And then the beauty of Google Docs is when you share it out, everybody can work on it at the same time. And so not just one person editing and then handing it to somebody else or emailing it to your friends. And then Google Hangouts, they mentioned that. We talk on Google Hangouts. In fact, there's one scheduled for Tuesday, I think, where people get together. People get together and hang out. So those are the tools. Does anybody else have a tool that's not listed on here that you use for collaborating?
Blab. We started using Blab.
Blab, yeah, and that's a Twitter-based thing, right?
It's
Blab?
a Twitter-based thing. We've started to use it throughout the district with our TAs to provide different conferencing tools and stuff instead of Google Hangouts because it allowed us to have people jump into a seat and jump out so we could talk with more people. Google Hangouts.
So what she's talking about with the Blab and jumping in and out of a seat, in a Hangout, everybody's in there at the same time, so everybody can talk. And because technology is not perfect yet, if I try to talk, there's a little bit of a delay, and then if Melissa's talking to me, so the delays kind of can muck up the conversation. But in Blab, whoever owns it controls who comes in and who leaves. So I think you can basically like raise your hand, right, in a Blab?
Yeah.
And then you come in, do some talking, and then the next person comes in and does some talking. So it's a cool tool. Any others?
We use Vidyo.
What is it called?
Vidyo, V-I-D-Y-O, but that's where you have, it's video conferencing, it's another product that we purchased, and then our IMESD has purchased, and then we can, it's very high quality video conferencing that we can use from multiple points. You can, if you're not within our domain, you can use the online client, and so it's nice to use between different districts that are using different platforms, different devices, and it's high quality. It has a lot of capability with it as well. Sharing your screen, but similar to Google Hangouts, but I think it's just better quality. But you also pay for it too.
Right.
I don't know what the cost is, but.
Well, you get what you pay for,
Yeah.
right? So Google Hangouts is free, so there's going to be some issues. So yeah, I'd never heard of that one. Cool.
We use Box.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Boxer.
Yeah.
And what do you like about Boxer, Cat, compared to other, like Slack?
It's taken me a while to get used to it. There's something I don't like about it, but I do like that it's immediate communication. You can have groups of people that you have communicated with, like our team, just those 5 people are in that conversation. Sometimes the message was created ahead of me, but then I would have to listen through several messages. But for immediate response,
I think in my head, I start to compartmentalize when I'm using a different tool, right? So Slack for me has become this tool where I can text message people. It takes over a lot of email, so I'm not doing a lot of email. But then because I'm traveling so much, Voxer works so well for me when I'm traveling from building to building to building, because obviously I don't want to text. I don't want to, so it's entertainment, but it's also a great use of my time when I'm going from. Yeah.
The thing I really like about Voxer is it forces me to listen before I respond. So when I'm having a conversation with somebody, and typically, I'm sure this happened to all of us, when you're talking to somebody, usually you're thinking about what you're going to say next. Or somebody says something that triggers something, like all you can think about is, okay, stop talking so I can talk. I want to talk, stop talking. But with Voxer, I actually have to listen. So I listen to what somebody says, and it gives me a chance to be thoughtful with my comments back. That's why I'm surprised I put that on.
There's a couple of other ones that I've just been exploring recently. So there's an app called Roger, and it isn't a voice audio app like Voxer, but I think the interface is better than Voxer. Like Voxer has an interface that I don't love so much, but you don't have to have an account, and then you can send somebody an audio message with Roger. It'll give you a link to the message once you've recorded it. So just exploring that right now. And then the other one that I think is really fascinating is called Talk, and it's text messaging. So basically, instead of having a podcast or a video type thing, you're actually recording a text message conversation that you then push out to people. And so you're reading these messages, like you might have a group of people, and so it's recording the text messages that you're having this conversation in, and that's what you push out and share. So it's really interesting.
So Corinne's going to show you this awesome feature of the Q&A in the Google Slides. So
Okay, I
Ellen
like it.
asked us a question, and we get to put it up for everybody to see. This is so cool. I'm so excited about it. So how do you communicate and share your learning so that the better together expands to your district as well?
That's a really good question. So I think I was just thinking about all these different tools that we use, and the idea really is that the types of tools that you're using at that planning level, that sort of visionary level, eventually trickles down to your kids, right? Your teachers see it. So that's really, I mean, I think largely what we're doing is visioning and getting affirmation and kind of pushing ahead with what could be my pitfalls. I need you to listen to this. I want to bounce this idea off of you. But ultimately, it does, some of the usage of things trickles down to the classroom level. And sometimes we're talking about big things, like how do you do BYOD from soup to nuts? How do you plan it? How do you convey it to stakeholders? What kind of policy do you need? All of those things. And sometimes it's just like, what tools are you using right now? And what does that look like in a classroom? So there's definitely varied levels of that. And then sometimes you switch tools. I mean, you just heard a whole bunch of different ideas about the tools that people are using. Some of it's just because you don't want stuff to get lost from the people that you're really getting information, like gleaning that visionary information from in email. Because, I mean, I can't keep up with it. And I know if stuff comes over Slack, it's either from my team at work or it's from one of these folks and I need to pay attention. So that kind of thing, I mean, that's going to expand everything.
I think district to district, we're using Slack probably primarily above anything and everything.
Yeah.
I know that if I have to ask a question to the collective whole, I probably am going to go to Slack first.
And for just-in-time stuff, so John Samuelson's in Beaverton, and he's fantastic with iPads. His Twitter name used to be iPad Sammy until he went legit. But so if I'm heading to a school and I am getting ready to do some stuff with iPads, and I'm like, I can't think of, I might just Fox John and go, hey, I'm going to work with these second graders on iPads. What was the last cool thing you did? And then he can Vox me right back, and now I have the information as I'm heading to where I'm going, so it helps with the just-in-time communication.
So I want to add an answer to the previous question. And one of the things that I really like about transferring the learning that I get to be a part of is I get to celebrate the success of other districts. And I get to validate this teacher who might be struggling with this concept. I can say, you know what? I know this specific teacher, this is their demographics, this is their experience, and the success that they had, and vice versa. I can say, you are doing such a great job. May I celebrate you to this larger collaborative community?
Oh wait, I went too far. I have to turn off what?
No, you're fine.
That was really the next slide. So in terms of the way that we do this, so we've talked about tools, kind of gave you an idea of how the 3 big districts got started and how it's expanded. We have folks from ESDs, we have lots of different districts represented at this point. So in these monthly Google Hangouts, but then we have this larger Slack channel and are connected through Voxer and lots of different tools. In terms of methods, I think it's really, this conference is a good example of a face-to-face opportunity that we take to do a lot of planning. There are a couple of other, Integrate Ed is another conference that takes place in Portland in February or January. I think we're at the end of February.
Last week of February.
So those opportunities to get together face-to-face and, again, affirm each other, but also do some, sit around the same table and do some planning. It's a little different than being in those virtual spaces. And it seems to have been really important for us to kind of keep that momentum going. Gil's a good example. He sat us all down at lunch today. We were planning a kind of a secondary event to a parent education piece that we Melissa started in Portland Public, and we're all part of it. And it's nice to just have, Gil was driving that. He kind of created, here are the outcomes that we want for today. We just got to sit around a table, and that was really, and I think we talked about it afterwards, it was really important. And we can go back to our respective places and do some planning, but we all came out of it with some commitments and some ideas about what we were going to do. So the face-to-face is pretty important. In fact, all of these, I think, are face-to-face.
Well, and so my thought with the ACPEnw Northwest is, if you weren't before, you're now on the ACPE message email thread. And so their stuff, I have it filtered into a folder, and there's
It can
like
get
close
quite
to
active.
1,000 messages in there right now. But it's just handy for things like, in case you guys didn't know this, they're hiring positions like Cindy and me and Nicole, innovative learning strategist people like teachers, left and right. And I know that because it's coming through the ACPE email thread. Like districts all over the place are going, hey, we're hiring this person or we're hiring that person. And then they also talk about stuff like printing from Chromebooks and other things too. But so the email thread, and then the face-to-face stuff, the Google Summits, the Ed Camps.
So that those informal meetings that we create in those face-to-face spaces have been really important for us. And then we often share resources. So the collaborative space within the Google Suite, that's been really integral in the things that we do. And then, again, going back to what we did today, Gil said, I think I'm just going to put us all in a Google Plus community. And that's also been a good place. And then people get to choose how they're getting their information. If you really love email, you can get an email, but you can turn that feature off and put a calendar reminder in to just check those communities every once in a while, or they pop up on the mobile app, or however you choose to get that information. That seems to be important too, because there's no cookie cutter way for anyone to get information. So those have been really important too. And then we mentioned social media, and then the listservs too are really good.
Well, and I guess ultimately it's flexible. It's a flexible communication.
Right.
That's what we're valuing, as well as the expertise that people offer.
And it's not a closed community. We're happy to.
Oh, yeah.
I know we're up here, but we're always looking for other people, and we're looking to go to other people's things too. And so it's great to see what's going on in other districts. So it's always nice to, hey Matt, we're doing this cool thing. And I'm like, hey, can I come watch? Kind of thing. And so as I'm standing here thinking about it, like it seems a little closed because it's like 4 of us standing up here, but it's not. I mean, it's wide open, wild west.
And then for broader communication, I think really we're using, I don't know that we use hashtags so much in this group, but if you're looking at district-wide communication, you can automate a lot of that. You don't want to be posting to Google Plus and to Twitter and to Facebook or whatever, wherever your audience happens to be. So hashtags really help a lot. When you use them, it will post to multiple places. So that's an entirely different workshop, but you don't want to overload yourself when you're talking about keeping in touch with these groups. So automating as much of that as possible is pretty imperative. Okay, so we kind of have some built-in norms as we started planning this session. We realized that there are things that we do just automatically that really help us stay as much of a learning community as possible. And then we're part of communities at some points that do tend to shut people, like they're doing things sort of inherently that shut people down. So we have some different sort of methods, or not methods, but norms that we use. One is always say yes and. If you're the no but in the situation, I mean, even in our diverse perspectives, when you're pushing back on someone's idea, it's more of a what if you, or no but is just, I don't think it has anywhere, it doesn't have a place in collaborative learning environments. And then the next one is to be present, right? Like, it's been hard as we shifted districts, like Nicole and I literally switched, but holding the time that you set aside sacred has been really important. And sometimes stuff just gets in the way. But we know on the second Tuesday of every month, we're going to get together on a Google Hangout at 9 o'clock. And it's time that we hold sacred as much as possible. So we know at least a few people are going to be there to have that. And we're pretty good at keeping it to an hour, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so with that, what we did is at the beginning of every school year, we say, what are the important things that we need to be covering? And then we prioritize those based on timing of the year as well as the relevancy to our individual districts, so that when we arrive on the second Tuesday at 9 o'clock, we know exactly what we're talking about and have already kind of marinated on those ideas, so that we can speak both intelligently as well as be able to be truly present.
So we have a plan and an agenda. And we take notes.
That documentation, I can't tell you how important it is. Even at ed camps, like the face-to-face sessions that we do, if like the engage stuff, we'll go back again to the parent part because it's at the forefront of my mind. We had an ed camp session that helped us largely in that planning, but I don't remember everything. I was a facilitator, but I have no recollection of everything that was said there. But I could revisit those notes and go, oh yeah, in Tiger Tualatin, Jennifer said they did it this way. And that was a good tip, or this was a cultural aspect for that particular population. That helped a lot in what we were doing in terms of then we don't make the same mistakes over and over again. So that documentation has been huge. Now the questions are just distracting.
Yeah.
I know, I'm confused.
Like, what are we doing?
There's a new top question.
Wait,
Oh, I
give
just
a
flipped it
second.
around. Okay. So I thought this one was interesting. Mark, do you feel like a superstar because you're in our presentation now? And I was thinking about this before I saw your question. The tools, for me, I know who uses what tool most. And so I know if I want to communicate with them, if I want to communicate with like the Beaverton group, I go to Slack because I know there's a Slack channel with them in it. If I want to communicate, John Samus and I talk on Boxer almost all the time exclusively because that's just how we do it. I know that I know where the people are, and so if I want to communicate with them, that's where I go. So it's kind of, I don't think it causes confusion. I wouldn't say it causes confusion.
Well, and so Matt, you kind of alluded to this. Each tool has its own purpose, right? So on Slack, it is our primary connection tool on those day-to-day things, but it's also the broadcast space where you're asking big questions and you're responding to those discussions. So, Voxer would be more that individual small group depending on who you're interacting with. So again, I think each tool has more of its own unique purpose.
And text messaging comes in pretty, I think
Text
we
messaging
text a
is
lot
yeah.
for individuals. So instead of that broadcast, I know Matt has a resource that I need, or I need some piece of history from some time we worked together. So I know how to get each of those people.
And
Additions?
And Corinne had mentioned it before. It's in Slack. The stuff is archived, so you can go back and look at it. Voxer, you can go back and listen to messages. I don't know how long they go back, but obviously in your text thread until you delete it, it's pretty much there. And so, yeah, you can go back and see it if you need it. I find that if I need the information again, I just ask the question again.
Mark?
If you're looking to grow the group, is that part of the goal that you try to collaborate more with more people? The reason I pose the question is that if somebody says, hey, I don't know what I'm doing on this, I got to download like 13 apps.
No. You do the ones that work for you.
Right, but I'm missing, I might be missing.
Well-
because I didn't realize that Slack is what you guys are actually doing is communicating. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
How does a
How do you keep it
person
straight?
joining the group
Yeah.
understand what tools are what for what? You have a landing page that kind of says, hey, here's what we do?
No, but I would say that for the most part, the Slack is kind of the landing page. That's where like everybody starts, and then if I want to have a one-to-one conversation with somebody, that's where I'll head over to Boxer or something, because I know they use that tool, or if I need something right now. But like Cindy mentioned, Slack is where we can broadcast stuff out to everybody in the group. You can also talk one-to-one in Slack, but so that's a valid, like I hadn't thought about it because we're all in the space, but yeah, bringing new people in could be. Well, but I hadn't thought about like just other people. How do we get other people into the space?
Yeah. I mean, there are lots of entry points, right? I don't use Voxer a ton. I'm in this space, but it's not. I mean, it serves different purposes in my professional and personal life. So I'm mostly getting my information just through a couple of channels, and that's fine. It can be overwhelming to get it from too many places.
It's at times.
Just starting a Google Plus community page though, because that's a little more mainstream. I think more additional people would be able to hit that first, and then if you had your Slack channel or whatever listed on your Google Plus page, then we could delve deeper in and get more into the priority app that you use.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Yeah, I
So
just.
what is the Google Plus community? Is it?
Why don't you make
Well,
one
there-
for us?
if-
together, or?
You're welcome to
You
create
can make
one.
one for us.
There is the Northwest
There isn't one
EdTech.
currently.
There is Northwest EdTech, yeah.
Yeah, and we do connect. Yeah, we kind of connect through a couple of those. Yeah. Like Google, and the one that we were talking about, that Gil was talking about, was specific to this parent education piece that we're trying to kind of get going statewide. So it's an offshoot of what this group kind of is part of. So it's not, I don't know, it's not exclusive. It's not like we started it as one that was going to be exclusive.
You'll have access to the Google document forever, like we're not going to shut that down. So if we actually come to a consensus, or we'll put out the Northwest EdTech one and say, off we go.
Jump
So we're
on.
going.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like just a little more background and context is that we all know each other in a professional setting.
Mhm.
And so it was just building those relationships over time and seeing the same people at camp or this event or that event. And so we just started to become this network for each other, and then started these other types of things where we could communicate in the Slack channel or via the Google Hangout. And so it's really just morphed into this, I don't know, it's really this supportive group of people, and I know I can go to any one of them at any time and ask for help, and it will happen.
And I think this also just occurred to me, Mark. One of the reasons we have so many tools is because I will try anything.
I think that's pretty universal.
I mean, if you,
and Melissa always has a new one. So.
yeah, I'm
try it.
ready to try the 5 things that I just heard today. Like, I can't wait to get on my phone, get them going. And there you go. So that's part of what happens is somebody else comes in and goes, hey, we're using this over here. And so, oh, well, let's try that one. And it ends up, and oh, that's fantastic. And then you show everybody, and now everybody's using it. And then it's just, so yeah, it can be, I've heard, especially with Twitter, it can be like drinking water from a fire hose. So there is some filtering some personal filtering that ends up going on. But, yeah.
Okay, so the last couple on these tips and tricks would be, we joke around a lot. There's a lot of, so Melissa referenced the professional lives, but we know each other personally too, and we'll meet for beers at, different times, or go out after an ed camp, and that joking around and just knowing each other personally also helps, especially because respect is such a big deal when you're talking about this professionally. I want these people to push back on my ideas, or see if I'm really thinking about all those perspectives. And I think with the relationship, it's really helpful when someone's kind of questioning your whatever tactics, your ideas, all of that, because I know they're not. It's not going to be personal. It's just, hey, have you thought of this? So that humor and those relationships are a really big deal.
And the phrase I hear a lot, and I think heard it from Corinne, was always assume positive intent. When you're collaborating with people, they're not trying to mess you up. They're trying to make themselves better. They're trying to make their group better. They're trying to help you. Hey, I have this thing and it's working really well for me. Maybe you could try it. And it's not you're doing bad. Maybe you should do this instead. It's just this thing was kind of cool. So it's assume positive intent when people are suggesting things, because yeah, we do tell each other a lot that that's not a great idea.
Tony will
Is it a
answer
good
your
one?
question at the end, because we don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's asking
Hang
about
tight.
this. Okay, remember I mentioned the fun thing? Maybe it's
Nope.
late on a third. Everybody stayed up too late last night and then enjoyed the. Okay, so I'm going to challenge your collaborating and your collaboration, and I have a very selfish motive for this, and because I want you guys to all be collaborators. So this is stuck in the 80s. So this is the link that I specifically wanted you to be able to have, is a Breakout EDU. How many of you have heard of Breakout EDU? If you have, raise your hand.
Go Carla. Okay, good.
Okay,
I was like,
awesome.
somebody else
Okay.
has to raise their hand.
Okay, so I'll give you a quick overview of Breakout EDU, and when you go see it, breakoutedu.com. So feel free to go to your devices and check it out, or go to this link and get started on the one that I have offered up to you for some selfish reasons that I will tell you about in a minute. Basically, what a breakout is escape rooms. Have you heard of escape rooms? I hadn't really either until a couple weeks ago. apparently they're popping up in Portland and Seattle, and basically you go into a room and you get locked in, and you can't get out unless you solve the problem.
So it's like 4 people locked in a room.
Yeah. So you have to work together.
Which you can't do in education. So there's a difference.
So there's a
we
different
tried
way
that
to
with
lock
kids. It
them
didn't really
in the
work.
room. So pretty much this breakout is,
method.
here is a box. It has 6 locks on it. And here are some clues. And there's usually a story behind it. The first one I did was Dr. Johnson's lab, I think. And the person came in, they shut the door behind us, and there's about 20 of us in the room. And they said, the door is locked, and the antidote to the virus that just came in the room is on the other side of that door. And you can't leave until you get into this box. That's where the key to that door is to get out, and the antivirus is over there. So there's 6 locks, there's a story, there's a bunch of different ways to make the hints and the clues and stuff. And that's a physical one that you would bring in with your teachers and whatnot. This is a digital one, stuck in the 80s. And my selfish motive for this is I have all but one answer. I'm counting on you guys to find the answer I don't have.
Matt and I have spent hours on this.
Sadly, we were at a conference last week, working really, really hard. Mark. Working really, really, really hard.
We're crowdsourcing.
I have
right
10. And yeah, Cindy and I and 2 other people at the conference have been working on this, and a couple of them are still working on it in other districts. We're working together.
I've been working on it long after the conference, and so.
Okay, Matt.
So.
If anybody in the room gets it, I'll give them 2 yellow chips.
Oh, seriously? Wait,
Okay.
where's my
That's
phone?
awesome.
Yellow chips together, I'll give them 2.
So if
I'll get them.
if you get the date, so one of the clues is a date field in a Google form. If you get the date field, come find me or find Mark, and he will give you 2 yellow chips. And because I really want the date field. That's the only one I don't have. But there's really no way you could do this by yourself. I don't think. I mean,
No,
it took 4
I've never
of us
done
to
one
get
that you can
5 of the 6
do by
clues.
yourself. Yeah.
And so, there's no time. When you do an actual breakout, I think you have 47 minutes.
45.
So 45
Yeah.
minutes.
That's what I give my
Ticking
folks.
clock behind you, like
Maybe I'm jumping
24.
2 minutes.
47
And it sounded
12
good.
seconds. 12 seconds.
47 minutes, 12 seconds. Yeah. So there's a ticking clock behind you, like in 24, and the kids are doing it or the adults are doing it. But you guys have access to each other, and you have access to everybody else out there, so you can ask them questions and
Use your resources.
use your resources.
For those of you that don't know, the Breakout EDU too is a, like you said, locks, toolbox, etc. You can get all of the pieces off of Amazon for about $99, or you can get a box actually from the Breakout EDU people.
Which has gone up. The wooden boxes went up to 120 because they have a new plastic and metal box that's 79 now, I think. 80.
So I like that this
80,
is
sorry.
digital because you don't need extra stuff. So just
Oh, and on a side note of that, there's a Breakout EDU app called Locks that's free right now for 2 weeks on the App Store. And I'm pretty sure it's on, could you not find it on Android?
It's only on iOS.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have an iPhone or a iPad, you can get Locks for free, and then they're going to start charging in 2 weeks. LOCKS, yep. And then it'll say breakout stuff on it. I would suggest you get it because this breakout thing is kind of taking.
Next year at ACPEnw, we're going to do a couple.
There you go. So I have to think, as we heard our keynote today, and just that whole blended learning and connecting and looking at classrooms and learning differently, this is a case study for them. It is problem solving, but it's connected to skills that students are naturally having to learn anyway. So if you want to talk more specifically, I can give you plenty of even grade level and appropriate age level examples. So
There is also a Breakout EDU homework. So if you search for homework, they have specific activities that will serve as homework.
there's the Breakout EDU Facebook page is pretty prolific. There are people posting all the time. It's being crowdsourced. People are making games constantly. Originally, it was a lot more secondary level or adults, and now there's a lot more teachers making elementary-based games.
And honestly, I'm surprised that there wasn't a breakout session at ACPE, at least one. I thought for sure there'd be at least one. So like she said, next year,
We're doing it.
we're doing it. This is, so apparently 2 yellow or gold coins. Did he say yellow or gold?
Yellow. Or the gold.
The gold ones are the good ones, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So apparently 2 gold coins for whoever can figure out that date field. See Mark or see me, and I
I
don't
know
know.
this is going to give them both to one person.
I don't think there wasn't a setting for the shenanigan filter, the anonymous one that you were asking. I didn't see one anyway, because all it is turn it on, and then you have the option, yeah.
Yeah, there's just a switch.
And then you can see all the questions, right, on your device, and that's how you get to thumbs up and thumbs down them. So we can also see them up here, but what we don't have is an option to, I can't like delete a question off of there. So it's a teaching thing
Right,
for,
and then this,
for teachers.
so you can't delete the questions, but in the presentation, you have a Q&A history that's attached to that slide deck now. And so you see all the questions.
All that traffic.
Yeah.
And
So-
then, go ahead.
So long story short, thank you for helping with this. I'm so excited about this Q&A thing.
That's a tremendous possibility.
Did we skip
It is,
Susan's
yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we asked.
So Susan asked this question though, the collaboration model that we're talking about here, which was just organic, really, it was not planned or anything.
By the way, yeah.
You just got rickrolled.
First Rickroll.
Oh, part of
Just
the
so you
digital
know,
breakout EDU.
it happens a lot. I've been Rickrolled many times in the last week.
Could this be transferred to teaching staff? Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of teaching. It's such an all-consuming profession. If you've ever been a classroom teacher or known a classroom teacher, it really is. You really have to set aside the time. So that be present part of it. Maybe they set up their networks on Tuesday nights after kids go to bed, and they meet quarterly instead of monthly. It has to work for you. And it's such a personal thing. And when your kids grow up and you have, different kinds of time, then you shift that around. But certainly we do this as professional learning communities / data teams, whatever your district calls them. It's a face-to-face versus, a Twitter chat or something like that. So, I think and that asynchronous sort of, I'm going to join the conversation when I have time and then I'm going to step out of it. It's kind of a party that keeps going even when you're not there. So
and it's much more informal than email. Like, I don't know about you, but when I get an email, I always feel like I have to write Corinne, comma, space. I thought your stuff was fantastic, blah, 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 signature on the bottom. And with Slack or Vox or any of these other ones, it's just like, hey, I need this thing. Hey, I have this thing. And you eliminate a lot of typing and formality with the tools. And
Have your teachers in your district have you brought these tools to your teachers and their PLCs, or have you connected any of your teachers between, or?
The
We
Google
definitely,
tools for sure.
and Slack. I think Slack has been pretty integral in some of our teams, but it's not really cross-content at this point. It's like your team of first grade teachers or your English department at your high school. So they're definitely out there. It's harder to break into them. They're not paid
Some
to
administrators using
pay
it
with
with
tools,
their
yes.
whole building. Like they have the Slack instance for everybody, and if you join, you join, if you don't.
What we were looking at it for was replacing internal communication, taking internal communication off of email and into Slack.
Yeah. And we've used Selly for that. There's another tool that's it's like mass texting, and we've done that, at our district level, for sure.
One of our board members actually
Yeah,
did it with his company, and he said that the productivity level went through the roof because they were no longer sifting through email. It was more like, oh, this is my area, and there's a conversation, get in it, get out.
Yeah.
And email was only external communication.
And we could make some predictions about what our youngest teachers are doing. They check email under duress. So they're looking for other ways to communicate, more immediate, less formal, and something that you don't have to weed through a million things to get to the information. So Slack, Sully, all those different tools are ones that they're really more interested in using because all the noise is out of it. You know who you're getting it from.
So you have to feed the mules as well as the racehorses. Somebody heard that in the session before. I didn't really talk about that.
So, question.
Yeah. So I'm pulling that. That was in our session?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that?
Was that the pioneering one?
Oh, okay.
Setting.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm reading off the shared doc. And so there's collaboration going on the shared doc. And one of the reason I put what is a pressing issue back home as a question is if you read those questions and you like, hey, I either have the same concern or I might have a solution to that, then you can respond to that question with your name and say, hey, let's meet up at wherever, the first tee box or something, and we can talk about this. Or it's a way to connect, and that's, Susan, like you were asking about how we do teachers. Mostly right now in Salem Kaiser, we're using the Google tools to do that with them. And so they share documents all the time, and they can send stuff back and forth. So,
What's your question, Drew?
So is there any irony in that this organization of computer professionals in education's main communication list is an email list?
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
A listserv from 1997.
And that mine is filtered to a folder that I may not ever open.
I mean, is it just that it works, right?
Yeah.
It's not as efficient and effective.
Yeah.
But we still stay.
Well, but if we think about it, though, if just the breakout question is like not very many people have heard about breakouts in general in this community. We're in the classroom all the time, and so it's a different community that we're in, and so we're seeing different ways of communicating, and it's worked. The email list has worked. People, like, I know that there's a ton of jobs opening up for people that do what I do in other places from the email list.
Well, and the question, I think, when you start talking about different tools for different things, what's scalable? So what do you want? I mean, this is a lot of, it's not just attendees from this year, right? We have some historical, they may not be here and still on that list.
Right.
So are the other solutions that you have available to you really ready for groups that are that big, or do you branch off and use some other tool based on interest or based on current projects or current issues? So, I mean, it's a great question.
It is, and I think one of the things that's, because we had talked about this on the board, and I think one of the things that's changed over the last year and a half is the use of that email list as an email list, right? So people have actually been using it to post questions and not just job postings, which is what it was for before, really.
Okay.
So I think now that there's this understanding that that is a useful way to communicate and share information, I think people are at a large level able to now say, oh, okay, now we need to kind of siphon off the how do I print to a printer from a Chromebook, away from how do I do instructional technology in the classroom, away from leadership, and how do you siphon that out and let people follow.
And so Slack is a perfect, apparently I like Slack too, but Slack is a perfect tool for that because you put in different channels with different, basically, topics. So you can have break fix, you can have job postings, you can have all the different, whatever topics you want, and you can also have private things, like I can direct message Jeremy on Slack, I can direct message this group on Slack, or I can say, we can make a private Salem Kaiser whatever over here and still participate in the big thing, but not bother the rest of you with the stuff that only we need to talk about in Salem Kaiser. It's a fantastic tool.
I would say one of the downsides of Slack, I love Slack, is that you have to pay to have it archived. And if you use the capacity that you're talking about, you lose a lot of that crowdsourcing knowledge that you have a record of. It does be
But like I said, I just asked the question again.
Yeah. People answer again. Tony?
Even with our channel on Chromebooks, a question about why the language keeps doing in Mandarin might start on Monday at 8
Right.
a.m. and on Thursday at 3 p.m. with
Nothing
kind of
with
binding together, which is what the
and
mailing list is
yeah,
what it is. But
7
that's what it gives
and find it. Yeah.
Did you know that you
It's
can
huge.
search Mandarin in Slack and find everything that has to do with Mandarin in your Slack? It has
So it's
it
just
has a
those
good.
terms that are,
It's not as efficient at
yeah.
finding
True.
together.
Interestingly enough, the guy that invented Slack thinks it's a piece of crap, and he can't believe they're making a bunch of money on it.
Yeah, but it's an, I mean, it's another tool that's evolving. We used to have another listserv, Mesa. Did that just
It's still
die?
there.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
You get a monthly reminder.
I think what was nice about Mesa, and all listservs have this feature, but it was really apparent that you could go to the archives for that particular listserv. I mean, I'm sure the ACPE list is, rather than searching email, you just search a search term. But that was that was a good, like, that was the teaching side, and ACPE was sort of the more technical side that they've definitely mashed at this point. So.
Julie, thank you for being interested in the question on the doc. So hopefully whoever put the question on there will find you, and you guys can talk about that.
I want to go back and maybe answer my own question. The danger is, when you move out of a system into a new system, is, well, this system's been working for a long time. We know it works. And I think as a community, we're real careful about really jumping onto new systems.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
To disrupt the
Started
community.
in something else.
Well, it's,
So.
Yeah. All right, so keep working on that breakout EDU.
Yeah, Mark's back
Get
there.
your-
He's got his
get
gold
your
coins.
chips,
Oh, he's
like
handing them
AC.
to us.
I'm going to give them to you.
Okay.
Five
Alright.
presenters, so there's
So
5
if,
gold.
so
You
if
guys hand
nobody
them out
gets
as
it,
you see fit.
if nobody gets it, we get them?
Yeah, if
What
nobody
are you
gets it,
saying?
we get them.
Matt's
It's
been
like
been
top
working on this
shelf.
for
You guys
weeks.
decide.
All
Okay.
right, thank you very much. You're like, wait a minute.
So
It would be worth it to Matt to give all 5 of those away.
this has been bothering me for over a week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so how do you get there again?
Oh,
How do you get to this?
So is it?
it's one of the links. It's on the last slide. That one.
So actually, and there's no URL here. You have to get into the slide deck.
You
and
have to
give-
get into the
click
slide deck.
it.
Do you get
It's
the
an
slide
active
deck?
slide
Everybody's
Or
got
you
the
just
slide
search
deck?
stuck in the 80s.
Or that.
Breakout.
Or yeah, you can search stuck in the 80s breakout EDU. Thanks, Jeremy.
Found it real fast.
Super.
No, I was like stuck in between that message.
I know.
I love.
That's the collaboration part of it. I can't do it.
That was awesome that you got Rick rolled right in the middle too. That was fantastic. I love that.
Tommy Two.
Yeah, Tommy Two Tone and whoever sang 8675309 last night was just making my head hurt because that's a lot of clues in this thing. So. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And again, we'll appreciate the collaborative conversations and discussions that we've had together and hope that we
And your
continue
willingness
that.
to use this.
Yes.
And if you want to join this craziness that is us, feel free to put some sort of contact stuff in that Google Doc, and we'll get you onto the Oregon, Southwest Washington, whatever Slack channel, and
Yeah.
you can try it out.
Perfect.
I can't clap real well because I'm trying to find the stupid thing.
Good luck
The
with that.
stupid what?
The date.
Oh, yeah. And people are surprisingly quiet online. Like the games are out there, they're all delivering, but if you go.
I hit up Facebook and got this cryptic clue from somebody, and I learned about a smoke. No, Snopes. I learned what a Snopes was, but I had to Google it. You know what Snopes is? You know what Snopes is? It's a Snopes. S-Snopes.
Oh, that's. Huh.
Thanks for